Welcome, listeners, to another episode of The Real Crime Diary, hosted by MHB. I'm glad you're here with us today as we dive into a case that has left a lasting impact on many. The murder of Cynthia Hoffman, a young woman from Alaska whose life was tragically cut short in a heartless and calculated crime. Today, we'll journey through the harrowing details surrounding Cynthia's untimely death. We'll uncover the circumstances of how a so-called friendship turned into a chilling betrayal, leading to a murder-for-hire scheme that shocked the small community of Chugiak and captured the attention of people all around the world. This is a story that involves deceit, manipulation, and ultimately, a cold-blooded crime orchestrated by someone she trusted. Cynthia Hoffman was a 19-year-old with a bright future ahead of her. She viewed Denali Brehmer as her best friend, only to be lured into a deadly trap. This tragic case serves as a stark reminder of the lengths to which people can go in pursuit of deception and greed. Throughout this episode, we'll explore the details of the investigation, the roles of key figures including Darren Schillmiller, who posed as a millionaire online to instigate this horrific crime, and the lengthy legal proceedings that followed. We'll hear about the dedicated work of the Anchorage Police Department, the FBI, and other investigative agencies that worked tirelessly to bring justice for Cynthia and her family. As we delve into this case, keep in mind the importance of online safety and the dark consequences when trust is placed in the wrong hands. We strive to provide an engaging and factual account, hoping that through stories like these, we can raise awareness about the hidden dangers in our society. Stick with us here on The Real Crime Diary, where we aim to bring you detailed explorations of true crime cases. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analyses of criminal events and to stay updated on the latest episodes. Now, let's get started on this gripping journey into the murder of Cynthia Hoffman. On June 2, 2019, the peaceful surroundings of Thunderbird Falls in Chugiak, Alaska, became the scene of a brutal and unimaginable crime. 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman, known affectionately by her family and friends as Cece, was murdered by someone she considered her best friend, Denali Brehmer. Hoffman, who had developmental disabilities, trusted Brehmer implicitly, never suspecting the treachery that lay ahead. The events leading to Cynthia's tragic death began when Denali Brehmer, at 18 years old, was catfished by an Indiana man named Darren Schillmiller. Posing as a wealthy individual offering a seemingly irresistible sum of $9 million, Schillmiller manipulated Brehmer into committing the murder and filming it to send him the footage. Under the guise of a lucrative opportunity, Brehmer orchestrated what can only be described as a cold-blooded murder-for-hire plot. On that fateful evening, Cynthia Denali Brehmer and another accomplice, Caden McIntosh, went to Thunderbird Falls under the pretense of a fun outing. In a shocking betrayal of trust, Cynthia was bound with duct tape by her so-called friends. Panicked and realizing the dire situation she was in, Cynthia threatened to call the police. This moment of terror was enough for McIntosh to take an irreversible step. He shot Cynthia in the back of the head and pushed her body into the Eklutna River, unsure if she succumbed to the gunshot or by drowning. The sheer brutality of the crime mirrored the depths of the deception involved. Brehmer, unwavering in her commitment to Schillmiller's wicked designs, recorded every harrowing moment, sending the videos and photos to Schillmiller as evidence. Judge Peterson, in his later statements, remarked how the footage of Cynthia's final moments was among the most disturbing pieces of evidence he had ever seen in his career. Brehmer did not act alone. She enlisted several accomplices, promising them significant monetary rewards. Caleb Leyland, for example, provided critical assistance in planning and executing the murder. However, the reward money, much like Schillmiller's millionaire persona, was a fabrication. As authorities dug deeper, they unraveled a tangled web of influence and exploitation. The Anchorage Police Department, alongside the FBI and other agencies, pieced together the sequence of events that led to Cynthia Hoffman's untimely death. Their exhaustive investigation revealed the deceitful and manipulative nature of Schillmiller, who had targeted Brehmer and ultimately led her down this destructive path. Denali Brehmer's guilty plea to first-degree murder highlights the gravity of her crimes and her acceptance of responsibility. Sentenced to 99 years in prison, her punishment reflects not only the premeditated nature of the crime, but also serves as a stark deterrent against such future atrocities. The case didn't end there, as the trials and sentencing of her co-conspirators continued, ensuring that justice for Cynthia Hoffman was served in full. The murder of Cynthia Hoffman is a heart-wrenching case, a stark reminder of the real dangers lurking online and the devastating impact of manipulated loyalty. As we continue to explore this case, it's clear that the repercussions of this crime extend well beyond the immediate act, forever altering the lives of all involved. Denali Brehmer's descent into criminal infamy began with a deception that exemplifies the dark underbelly of online interactions. At the heart of this twisted tale was Darren Schillmiller, a man who catfished Brehmer, presenting himself as Tyler, a wealthy millionaire from Kansas. In reality, Schillmiller was a far cry from the persona he crafted. He was a manipulative individual from Indiana, whose sinister intentions had deadly consequences. Brehmer, who was 18 at the time, became embroiled in a relationship with Schillmiller, believing his promises of immense fortune. Schillmiller offered an unbelievable sum of $9 million in exchange for videos and photos of Brehmer committing a murder. This grotesque proposition led Brehmer down a path of premeditated violence that would tragically end the life of her so-called best friend, Cynthia Hoffman. Under Schillmiller's direction, Brehmer began planning the murder, targeting Cynthia, who was vulnerable due to her developmental disabilities. Brehmer enlisted the help of several friends, including Caden McIntosh and Caleb Leyland, convincing them with the promise of substantial payouts. The allure of easy money blinded these young individuals to the heinousness of their actions. On June 2, 2019, the plan was set in motion. Brehmer lured Cynthia to Thunderbird Falls under the pretense of a fun hiking trip. Little did Cynthia know that this would be her final journey. At the secluded location, Brehmer and McIntosh bound Cynthia's hands, feet, and mouth with duct tape. The situation escalated when Cynthia began to panic, threatening to call the police. In a cruel turn of events, McIntosh shot her in the back of the head. Her body was then dumped into the Eklutna River, with Brehmer documenting the crime as per Schillmiller's instructions. Throughout this horrific sequence, Brehmer sent photos and videos to Schillmiller, fulfilling his twisted requests. This explicit evidence was meant to secure the promised millions, which, as it turned out, were never real. The gruesome reality of the situation soon unfolded, with investigators uncovering the elaborate scheme and bringing those responsible to justice. Schillmiller's manipulations led directly to a murder-for-hire plot that was meticulously investigated by the Anchorage Police Department and the FBI. The sinister web he spun ensnared Brehmer and her accomplices, leading to multiple arrests and convictions. Schillmiller himself was sentenced to 99 years for his role, facing the repercussions of his malevolent actions. The narrative of Denali Brehmer and Darren Schillmiller serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of online deceit and the extreme measures people might take under the influence of manipulative promises. It's a chilling example of how virtual interactions can spiral into real-world tragedies, forever altering lives and families. Stay with us as we now move into the chilling details of the crime and its aftermath. Don't forget to subscribe to The Real Crime Diary for more deep dives into true crime stories that need to be told. The crime that led to the tragic death of Cynthia Hoffman was nothing short of horrifying. On June 2, 2019, Cynthia, who was only 19 years old at the time, was lured to Thunderbird Falls near Chugiak, Alaska, under the pretense of a hiking trip. Brehmer, alongside Caden McIntosh and other accomplices, bound Cynthia with duct tape. In her final moments, she was shot in the back of the head in an act of sheer brutality. Her lifeless body was then dumped into the Eklutna River, further compounding the callousness of the crime. Denali Brehmer, who Cynthia considered her best friend, orchestrated this heinous act. The details that came to light during the investigation were chilling. Brehmer had been manipulated by Darren Schillmiller, who catfished her by posing as a wealthy benefactor from Kansas. Schillmiller offered Brehmer an astronomical sum of $9 million to film and send proof of a murder. Driven by this deceitful promise, Brehmer solicited the help of her friends, thus roping them into her gruesome plot. Caden McIntosh played a direct role in Cynthia's murder. During the investigation, McIntosh confessed that the three initially agreed to duct tape Cynthia and take photographs. However, when Cynthia started to panic and threatened to call the police, things took a deadly turn. McIntosh admitted to shooting Cynthia and pushing her body into the river. He claimed uncertainty about whether Cynthia died from the gunshot wound or from drowning, adding a grisly layer to the crime. Caleb Leyland was another key player in this morbid saga. He was promised a significant portion of the so-called reward money, $500,000, for providing a vehicle to facilitate the crime. Leyland later pled guilty to second-degree murder and awaits sentencing, which could range from 25 to 75 years in prison. The Anchorage Police Department, aided by the FBI and the Indiana State Police, conducted an exhaustive investigation to uncover the layers of this conspiracy. What they found was a disturbing web of deceit that involved not just murder, but also a plot to produce child pornography. Both Denali Brehmer and Darren Schillmiller faced additional federal charges related to this reprehensible activity, further emphasizing the depth of their criminal conduct. As the case unfolded, the sheer premeditation and calculated nature of the crime became apparent. Judge Peterson sentenced Brehmer to 99 years without parole, a term that underscores the seriousness of her actions. He referred to the video evidence of Cynthia's last moments as one of the most difficult pieces of evidence he had ever had to watch. This heartbreaking footage showed Cynthia duct-taped on the ground, moments before her life was taken. The investigations revealed not only the physical acts of violence, but also the psychological manipulation that Schillmiller exerted over Brehmer and her accomplices. It was a chilling reminder of the potential dangers lurking online, where predators use false identities to prey on unsuspecting individuals. Brehmer's sentencing was intended to serve as a stark warning to others who might consider similar actions. The judge and the prosecution emphasized not just the need for punishment, but the hope for deterrence, to prevent such a tragedy from occurring again. In the end, this case remains a poignant reminder of how easily trust can be exploited and how deeply the scars of such betrayal can run. The Real Crime Diary will continue to follow any new developments in this case as justice serves its course. Thank you for staying tuned, and don't forget to subscribe to The Real Crime Diary for more in-depth explorations of other criminal cases. Denali Brehmer's sentencing stood as a pivotal moment in the case of Cynthia Hoffman's murder. Ultimately, the final judgment came down to 99 years without the possibility of parole. Judge Peterson made it abundantly clear that this was not just a crime of passion or a spur-of-the-moment act. The murder of Cynthia Hoffman was a calculated and premeditated plot. The judge described Brehmer's actions as cold and ruthless, emphasizing the severity of the crime and the meticulous planning involved. Darren Schillmiller, who had orchestrated the entire crime from afar by posing as a wealthy benefactor online, also faced his due legal consequences. Schillmiller had seduced Brehmer into believing that he would provide her with $9 million in exchange for the execution and documented murder of her close friend. In his own sentencing, Schillmiller received 99 years, mirroring Brehmer's without any suspension. This hefty sentence aimed to send a strong message about the ramifications of such manipulative and vile conduct. Next in line for sentencing was Caleb Leyland. Having pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, Leyland's involvement was significant as he helped facilitate the crime by providing Brehmer with the necessary transportation. His sentencing is scheduled for June 10, 2024, where he faces a potential 25 to 75 years in prison. The exact length of his sentence remains to be determined, but it will assuredly reflect his role in this gruesome crime. Caden McIntosh, who was directly involved in the incident and is alleged to have shot Hoffman, awaits his trial. McIntosh admitted to authorities that he had shot Cynthia and pushed her body into the river. His trial is set to unfold, where the prosecution will need to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The trial will seek to bring justice to yet another integral player in this tragic event. This case was intricately investigated by several bodies, including the Anchorage Police Department's Homicide Unit, the FBI, and other state agencies. These thorough investigations revealed a disturbing narrative of manipulation, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. As the trials and proceedings continue, the legal repercussions for these individuals underscore the gravity of their actions. The sentences handed down aim not only to punish, but to deter others from engaging in similar criminal conduct. The premeditated nature of this crime has left a lasting impact on the community and serves as a significant example of the legal system's effort to bring justice to the victims and their families. Stay with us as we continue to follow the developments in this case on The Real Crime Diary. The murder of Cynthia Hoffman stands as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers lurking in the digital world. It's a harrowing illustration of how trust can be tragically manipulated and how the false promise of wealth led to an act of unspeakable cruelty. This case, with its complex interplay of deception, exploitation, and cold-blooded murder, urged all of us to reflect on the measures necessary to protect vulnerable individuals from such predatory influences. As we conclude today's episode, I urge you to consider the importance of vigilance in our online interactions. The internet, while a source of endless possibilities, can also be a hunting ground for those with malicious intent. Cynthia Hoffman's story is a heartbreaking testament to the potential consequences of our virtual engagements. Thank you for being with us today on The Real Crime Diary. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. If you found today's episode both enlightening and thought-provoking, please consider subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you won't miss out on our in-depth explorations of some of the most compelling criminal cases. On The Real Crime Diary, we are committed to shedding light on the dark corners of our world and discussing them with insight and respect. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed. This is MHB signing off.